In the heart of the desolate desert, an ancient tomb lay concealed beneath layers of sand and time. The air was thick with an eerie silence as the tombstone door creaked open, revealing a labyrinth of corridors adorned with faded hieroglyphics. Dr. Amelia Stone, a renowned archaeologist with a thirst for unraveling history's mysteries, stood at the entrance, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The torchlight flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. A dedicated team of experts accompanied her, their breaths visible in the chilly air as they descended into the depths of the tomb. The walls bore witness to millennia of history, their carvings telling tales of forgotten civilizations and long-lost rituals. Deeper they ventured, until they reached a chamber bathed in a soft, eerie glow. There, resting on an intricately adorned pedestal, lay a sarcophagus. Dr. Stone's fingers traced the ornate carvings, feeling a strange connection to the long-dead soul that lay within. As her team worked meticulously to uncover the sarcophagus, the tension in the air grew palpable. The moment arrived, the ancient seal was broken, and the chamber echoed with the distant whisper of history awakened. The lid of the sarcophagus was lifted, revealing the preserved remains of a mummy, a figure shrouded in tattered linen bandages, its form motionless and yet exuding an air of mystery that sent shivers down their spines. Dr. Stone's eyes widened as she gazed upon the mummy, a rush of emotions coursing through her. A mixture of awe, curiosity, and a hint of unease filled the chamber. It was as if the mummy's silent gaze held a secret longing to tell its story to the living world once more. As the torchlight flickered and the wind outside the tomb howled like the echoes of ages long past, Dr. Stone felt a strange connection to the mummy, an unspoken bond that seemed to transcend time itself. The discovery of the mummy sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Dr. Amelia Stone's name spread like wildfire, drawing attention from scholars, enthusiasts, and skeptics alike. Yet, amidst the acclaim, a shadow of unease clung to her thoughts. In the days that followed, Dr. Stone and her team worked tirelessly to document every detail of the mummy's remains. The linen bandages, though fragile, held a sense of reverence as they were carefully unwound, revealing the ancient body beneath. As the mummy's form was gradually unveiled, a feeling of anticipation hung in the air, as if the chamber itself held its breath. Dr. Stone's heart raced as she watched the withered figure being exposed, a figure that had remained hidden from the world for countless centuries. The mummy's face, though worn and decayed, seemed to gaze directly into Dr. Stone's soul. It was as if the mummy's eyes, though hollow, bore witness to a history and knowledge that transcended time. Late one evening, Dr. Stone found herself drawn back to the chamber that housed the mummy. The torchlight cast dancing shadows upon the walls, their movements almost mirroring the subtle rise and fall of the mummy's chest. A soft breeze whispered through the tomb, carrying with it a distant echo, a whisper, a sigh, a cry that seemed to linger on the edge of her hearing. Dr. Stone's pulse quickened as she strained to hear the source of the sound, yet all around her, the tomb remained in stillness. A feeling of being watched settled over her, and she turned to face the mummy, its sightless gaze fixed upon her. It was then that a single word seemed to echo through her mind, a voice that was neither audible nor spoken, "Remember." As the torchlight flickered and the shadows danced, Dr. Stone realized that the mummy's story was not confined to its preserved remains. It was as if the spirit of the mummy itself reached out to her, seeking to communicate its ancient tale. In the days to come, as Dr. Stone delved deeper into the history surrounding the tomb and its occupant, she felt an unshakable bond growing between them. The mummy's silent presence seemed to guide her thoughts, offering her glimpses into a past that defied the confines of time. Yet, even as curiosity drove her onward, a sense of unease lingered. The mummy's whispers seemed to grow more insistent, its connection to Dr. Stone deepening into something that transcended the boundaries of science and reason. As Dr. Amelia Stone continued her research, a sense of urgency overtook her. The mummy's silent messages, conveyed through whispers that only she could hear, seemed to grow more insistent, as if the weight of history pressed upon her shoulders. Late one night, as she pored over ancient texts and scrolls in her makeshift study, a gentle breeze seemed to sweep through the room. The torchlight flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to take on a life of their own. In the midst of her work, Dr. Stone felt a strange sensation, a presence, as if someone were standing just beyond her field of vision. The whispers, once distant echoes, now seemed to form coherent sentences, words that spoke of forgotten rituals and a past that begged to be remembered. A particular symbol caught her attention, a series of intricate lines and curves that seemed to repeat across various texts. As Dr. Stone traced the symbol with her finger, a surge of understanding washed over her. The mummy's story was intertwined with an ancient rite, a ritual that held the key to its silent cries. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Dr. Stone ventured back to the chamber where the mummy rested. The torchlight cast an ethereal glow upon its form, and she felt an unspoken connection between them, a bridge that spanned the chasm of time. With trembling hands, she rearranged the mummy's delicate limbs into a posture that mirrored the symbol she had discovered. The air seemed to hum with a strange energy, a sensation that sent shivers down her spine. As the last piece of the puzzle fell into place, a profound silence settled over the tomb. Dr. Stone's breath caught in her throat as the mummy's chest began to rise and fall, a slow, deliberate rhythm that matched her own heartbeat. The whispers, now a chorus of voices from ages long past, filled the chamber. The symbols on the walls seemed to come to life, their carvings shifting and transforming as if telling a story that only Dr. Stone could decipher. The mummy's gaze, once hollow and lifeless, now held a glimmer of awareness, an acknowledgement of the connection forged between them. In that moment, Dr. Stone realized that she was no longer a mere observer of history. She was a participant, a conduit for the mummy's voice to be heard once more. And as the whispers grew louder, the tomb itself seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, as if the spirits of the ancients were awakening from their slumber. Dr. Stone's journey into the past had taken an unexpected turn, and the boundaries between reality and the mystical realm blurred into something she could no longer control. As the whispers of the ancients grew stronger, Dr. Amelia Stone found herself increasingly immersed in a world that defied explanation. The mummy's story unfolded before her, a tapestry woven from the threads of history and the mysteries of the past. With each passing day, Dr. Stone's connection to the mummy deepened. The tomb became her sanctuary, a place where the boundaries of time seemed to blur and the whispers of the ancients guided her every step. She deciphered the symbols on the walls, piecing together a narrative that spanned centuries. The mummy's life had been a tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, a soul bound by the unbreakable threads of destiny. Yet, as the mummy's story reached its climax, Dr. Stone felt a growing unease. The whispers that had once seemed like a chorus of forgotten voices now took on a more ominous tone, a warning that reverberated through the depths of her consciousness. Late one night, as she sat alone in the chamber, the torchlight casting eerie shadows upon the walls, Dr. Stone felt a presence at her side. She turned, her heart racing, only to find herself face to face with the mummy itself. Its sightless gaze seemed to pierce through her, and a voice, an echo from the past, filled her mind. "Beware, for the past is not without its shadows." The tomb seemed to tremble, as if the very fabric of reality were unraveling. The whispers intensified, and Dr. Stone struggled to maintain her grasp on the world around her. It was as if the mummy's story had become a portal, a doorway that beckoned her to step beyond the boundaries of her own existence. Days turned into nights, and Dr. Stone's obsession with the mummy's tale became all-consuming. Her team, sensing her growing detachment, began to express concern, but their voices were distant echoes in a world that had become a labyrinth of whispers. And as the mummy's story reached its climax, a chilling realization settled over Dr. Stone. she was no longer an observer but a participant in a narrative that spanned centuries. The echoes of the past reverberated through her, intertwining her fate with the mummies in ways she could never have imagined. Dr. Amelia Stone's life had become a kaleidoscope of whispers and shadows. The mummy's story had woven itself into her very being, blurring the lines between the past and the present, the tangible and the ethereal. As the tomb's torches flickered and danced, casting surreal patterns upon the walls, Dr. Stone found herself unable to distinguish between the world she knew and the one she was uncovering. Her once clear thoughts were now muddled by the voices that echoed in her mind. The chamber itself seemed to shift, its dimensions warping and twisting as if reality itself were a fragile construct. Dr. Stone's interactions with her team became increasingly strained, their words and actions distorted by the presence of the mummy's whispers. In the midst of her internal struggle, a new revelation came to light. The mummy's tale was not confined to its own existence but intertwined with Dr. Stone's past. The whispers revealed a connection that spanned generations, a secret that had remained hidden in the shadows of time. As she traced her lineage back through history, Dr. Stone unearthed a name, Lena, a woman whose fate had become entwined with the mummy's curse. Lena's story was a tragic one, a tale of love and betrayal, of choices that had irrevocably altered the course of her life. With each piece of the puzzle that Dr. Stone uncovered, the whispers grew louder, a symphony of voices that seemed to celebrate her discoveries. Yet, underneath the cacophony, a single voice cried out, a voice that belonged to Lena, a plea for understanding, for redemption. Driven by an unrelenting desire to set things right, Dr. Stone delved deeper into Lena's story. The tomb's walls seemed to guide her, revealing hidden chambers and concealed passages that had been lost to time. And as the truth of Lena's fate unfolded, Dr. Stone realized that her own destiny was inexorably linked to the mummy's curse. The boundaries between her world and the echoes of the past had grown thin, and she found herself standing on the precipice of a revelation that could shatter reality itself. The whispers of the ancients had become a constant presence in Dr. Amelia Stone's mind, an ever-present chorus that seemed to guide her every move. As the lines between her reality and the mummy's story continued to blur, a sense of urgency gripped her. Lena's tale unfolded before Dr. Stone's eyes like a series of vivid images, a love that had blossomed against all odds, a forbidden bond that defied the conventions of their time. But as the whispers revealed, their love had been torn asunder by a betrayal that had plunged Lena into a world of darkness. One night, as Dr. Stone delved deeper into the labyrinthine passages of the tomb, she discovered a hidden chamber, a chamber that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. Within its confines lay artifacts that told a story of ritual and sacrifice, of a curse that had ensnared Lena and the mummy in a web of torment. As she traced her fingers over the ancient relics, Dr. Stone felt a chill course through her veins. The torchlight flickered erratically, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mirror her inner turmoil. The whispers grew more insistent, their urgency reaching a crescendo. It was as if the mummy's spirit sought to impart a final message, a revelation that could alter the course of their intertwined fates. With trembling hands, Dr. Stone assembled the artifacts in a ritualistic pattern, a pattern that had been etched into her mind by the whispers themselves. The air grew heavy with anticipation, a charged energy that seemed to hang in the balance. As the ritual reached its climax, the chamber seemed to shudder, its walls reverberating with a force that transcended the physical realm. A rift appeared before Dr. Stone, a tear in reality itself, and through that rift stepped Lena, an ethereal figure whose eyes held a mixture of sorrow and hope. Their gaze locked, and in that moment, Dr. Stone felt a surge of understanding, a connection that spanned the ages. The whispers fell silent, replaced by a single voice, a voice that belonged to Lena, a voice that pleaded for forgiveness, for release. Tears welled in Dr. Stone's eyes as she extended her hand toward Lena's ghostly form. The chasm between the living and the spectral had been breached, and as their fingers brushed, a surge of energy pulsed through Dr. Stone's veins. The whispers returned, their intensity reaching a fever pitch, as if celebrating the union of two souls separated by time itself. And as the chamber trembled and the rift began to close, Lena's figure began to fade, her form becoming translucent, a mere echo of the past. In her final moments, Lena's gaze held gratitude, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had shared. The rift sealed shut, leaving Dr. Stone standing in the chamber, the weight of the mummy's curse lifted from her shoulders. Yet, as the whispers fell silent and the torchlight steadied, Dr. Stone realized that the echoes of the past would forever linger in her heart. The boundaries between her world and the mummy's tale had been shattered, leaving her forever changed, forever connected to a story that had transcended time itself. With Lena's presence fading from the chamber, Dr. Amelia Stone was left standing amidst the echoes of a past that had been laid to rest. The mummy's story and Lena's tale had merged within her, leaving an indelible mark upon her soul. As days turned into weeks, Dr. Stone's research continued, fueled by the weight of the revelations she had uncovered. The mummy's whispers, once insistent, had grown hushed, as if their purpose had been fulfilled. However, a new source of unease began to creep into Dr. Stone's thoughts. The tomb that had once held the mummy's remains now seemed to emanate a different energy, a malevolent force that sent shivers down her spine. Late one evening, as she walked the corridors of the tomb, Dr. Stone felt a presence at her side. The torchlight flickered wildly, casting elongated shadows that danced upon the walls. A feeling of being watched settled over her, a sensation that prickled at her skin. Whispers, harsh and disjointed, seemed to fill the air, their words distorted and unintelligible. The chamber itself seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly force, as if an unseen entity sought to communicate its presence. With a mixture of trepidation and determination, Dr. Stone retraced her steps to the chamber where the mummy's remains had rested. To her shock, the sarcophagus lay empty, a gaping void where the ancient figure had once been. Panic clenched her heart as she realized the implications. The mummy's spirit, once dormant, had been unleashed, its energy free to roam the tomb and beyond. The whispers that had guided her were now a discordant cacophony, their urgency replaced by a sense of impending doom. The walls of the tomb seemed to close in around her, their carvings twisting and distorting into grotesque forms. The torches sputtered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness as an oppressive weight settled upon Dr. Stone's shoulders. In the midst of the darkness, a voice, an amalgamation of the mummy's whispers, seemed to seep into her mind. "You have awoken me," it hissed, a malevolent undertone that sent chills down her spine. A primal fear gripped Dr. Stone as she realized the true nature of the threat she had unwittingly unleashed. The tomb itself had become a prison for an ancient evil, a malevolent force that sought to reclaim its power and wreak havoc upon the world. As the shadows danced and the whispers grew in intensity, Dr. Stone knew that she was facing a foe beyond comprehension. The boundaries between the living and the spectral had been shattered, and the consequences of her actions threatened to plunge the world into darkness. The tomb, once a place of wonder and discovery, had transformed into a realm of malevolence and dread. Dr. Amelia Stone's heart raced as she stood amidst the oppressive darkness, the weight of her actions pressing upon her like a suffocating shroud. The mummy's spirit, now unbound, cast a palpable aura of malevolence that seemed to pervade every corner of the chamber. Its whispers had grown into a cacophony of hatred and rage, a symphony of voices that clawed at the edges of Dr. Stone's sanity. In the dim light of a solitary torch, she felt the mummy's presence drawing near, a chilling force that seemed to reach into the depths of her soul. The chamber's walls seemed to warp and writhe, the carvings twisting into grotesque forms that mocked the living. With each step she took, the shadows deepened, their inky tendrils wrapping around her like sinister fingers. The torchlight flickered erratically, casting distorted shadows that danced and swayed as if mocking her every movement. The whispers, once intelligible, had now become a cacophony of disjointed words, a chilling symphony of the mummy's rage and desperation. The air itself felt charged with an unnatural energy, a force that threatened to tear the fabric of reality asunder. As Dr. Stone's mind raced to find a solution, a memory surfaced, a fragment of Lena's story that held the key to breaking the curse. She had to confront the mummy's spirit, to offer understanding and redemption in the face of its unending torment. With her heart pounding and a resolve that bordered on desperation, Dr. Stone closed her eyes and began to speak, her words a mixture of empathy and conviction. She spoke of Lena, of love and betrayal, of choices that had led to suffering and despair. As her voice echoed through the chamber, the whispers began to waver, their intensity faltering. The shadows seemed to recede, the darkness giving way to a faint glimmer of light. Dr. Stone's words became a beacon, a lifeline cast into the abyss. And in that moment, a presence, a force that had been consumed by anger and vengeance, began to soften. The mummy's spirit, once a malevolent entity, seemed to waver, its presence shifting like a veil of smoke. Dr. Stone's voice, infused with compassion, reached into the depths of the mummy's torment. It was a plea for understanding, a plea for redemption, for a chance to break free from the cycle of suffering that had bound the mummy for centuries. The chamber trembled, the air itself seeming to hold its breath. And as Dr. Stone's words faded, the darkness began to dissipate, the shadows retreating like a defeated army. The torchlight steadied, casting a steady glow that illuminated the chamber once more. In the silence that followed, a single voice, a voice that held the remnants of the mummy's anger and pain, whispered its acceptance. And with that acceptance, the curse began to unravel, the malevolent force dissipating like mist in the morning sun. Dr. Stone's heart felt heavy with the weight of the mummy's tale, a tale of love, betrayal, and redemption that had spanned the ages. The tomb, once a realm of darkness, had been transformed by the power of empathy and understanding. As the shadows receded and the whispers fell silent, Dr. Stone knew that she had faced a force beyond comprehension and emerged victorious. The boundaries between the living and the spectral had been redefined, and the tomb's ancient curse had been laid to rest. With the mummy's curse lifted, the tomb that had once been a realm of malevolence had transformed into a place of profound stillness. Dr. Amelia Stone stood amidst the chamber, her heart heavy with the weight of the mummy's story and the knowledge of the forces that had been unleashed. As the torchlight cast a gentle glow upon the walls, Dr. Stone felt a sense of closure, a connection that transcended time and bound her to the mummy's spirit. The whispers that had once filled her mind with urgency had fallen silent, replaced by a tranquil serenity. Days turned into weeks, and the tomb's aura of malevolence became a distant memory. Dr. Stone's team resumed their work, their minds free from the oppressive forces that had once gripped the chamber. Yet, in the midst of the newfound calm, Dr. Stone sensed a lingering presence, a sense that the boundary between the living and the spectral had not been fully restored. The echoes of the mummy's story seemed to linger, a reminder of the bonds that had been formed across time. Late one evening, as she revisited the chamber, Dr. Stone felt a subtle shift in the air, a whisper, a sigh that seemed to brush against her consciousness. The torchlight flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to dance to a rhythm she could not hear. A figure appeared before her, an ethereal form that radiated an aura of tranquility. It was Lena, her presence a bridge between the living and the spectral, a manifestation of the connection that had been forged through time and fate. Lena's gaze held a mixture of gratitude and sadness, a silent acknowledgement of the role Dr. Stone had played in unraveling the curse that had bound her. Her presence seemed to linger in the chamber, a gentle reminder of the stories that lay hidden beneath the surface of history. With a final glance, Lena's form began to fade, becoming a mere whisper of the past. The chamber's torchlight steadied, its glow casting a steady illumination upon the carvings and symbols that adorned the walls. As Dr. Stone stepped out of the tomb and into the desert's embrace, she carried with her the echoes of a journey that had defied time and transcended the boundaries of reality. The mummy's story and Lena's tale had become a part of her, a testament to the enduring power of empathy and understanding. And as she gazed at the horizon, the sun dipping below the dunes, Dr. Stone knew that the shadows of the past had been eclipsed by the light of redemption, a light that would guide her journey into the uncharted territories of history and the human soul. In the aftermath of her encounter with the mummy's curse, Dr. Amelia Stone's life took on a new dimension, an undercurrent of unease that defied explanation. The tomb, once a source of wonder and discovery, now held an air of mystery that lingered like a haunting melody. As she continued her research and delved into the annals of history, Dr. Stone couldn't shake the feeling that the boundaries between the living and the spectral had been forever altered. The whispers of the ancients seemed to follow her, a symphony of voices that danced at the edge of her consciousness. Late one night, as she sat in her study, the torchlight casting eerie shadows upon the walls, Dr. Stone felt a chill settle over the room. The temperature seemed to drop, as if the very air had turned frigid and uninviting. A single whisper, a fragment of a sentence, seemed to pierce through the silence. "You have awakened me," it hissed, a voice that held the echoes of the mummy's anger and pain. Dr. Stone's heart raced as she looked around, the shadows seeming to shift and twist as if alive. The torchlight flickered erratically, casting distorted shapes upon the walls that seemed to move of their own accord. In the midst of the swirling darkness, a figure appeared, an ethereal form that seemed to materialize from the very shadows themselves. It was the mummy, its gaze empty yet filled with a malevolence that sent shivers down her spine. As Dr. Stone watched in horror, the mummy's form began to shift, its limbs contorting and elongating as if being pulled by invisible strings. Its whispers grew louder, a chorus of anger and despair that seemed to reverberate through the room. With a jolt, Dr. Stone realized that the curse had not been fully vanquished, that the mummy's spirit remained tethered to the mortal realm. The boundaries between the living and the spectral had been fractured beyond repair, leaving a door open for the forces of the otherworldly to cross over. As the room grew colder and the shadows deepened, Dr. Stone's mind raced to find a solution. The mummy's presence was no longer a mere whisper, it was a malevolent force that sought to reclaim its power and exact vengeance upon the living. With a trembling hand, Dr. Stone retrieved an ancient amulet from her desk, a relic that she had uncovered during her research. Its carvings held the promise of protection, a barrier against the forces that defied explanation. As she held the amulet aloft, the room seemed to tremble, as if the very fabric of reality was being tested. The mummy's figure wavered, its form distorting and fragmenting as if unable to fully cross into the mortal realm. With a final surge of determination, Dr. Stone recited an incantation, a prayer that had been whispered to her through the echoes of the past. The amulet glowed with an ethereal light, its energy forming a barrier that repelled the mummy's spirit. The chamber trembled, and with a final hiss of anger, the mummy's form began to recede. The shadows seemed to retreat, the torchlight steadying as if the room itself had been cleansed of the malevolent force. As the echoes of the mummy's presence faded, Dr. Stone was left standing amidst the aftermath, a room that bore witness to a battle between the living and the spectral. The boundary between the two worlds had been redrawn, a fragile line that could no longer be crossed. With a heavy sigh, Dr. Stone knew that the whispers of the ancients would forever remain a part of her, a reminder of the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface of reality. The tomb's secrets had been unveiled, but the echoes of its curse would forever linger, a chilling reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the spectral.
Inexplicable.